My name is Apollo, and I'm the head Overwatch coach at Esports Tower. First of all, thank you all so much for the comments on my last video. I really appreciate all the kind and encouraging words. Today we're going to have a discussion around how to win more games in Overwatch. Overwatch is at its core a team-based game. You have the power to control a single hero, and the other players on your team are vital to winning the match. You cannot carry every fight 1v5. This is one of the reasons that a lot of top streamers who are known for their mechanics like your Dr. Disrespects and your Shrouds of the world come to try Overwatch and get hard stuck in silver, gold, and platinum when they would typically find themselves in the equivalent of GM in other titles. Traditional sports have had decades, and in some cases even centuries, to figure out how to get the world's best athletes developed and elevated to compete at the highest level. Esports Tower is one of the companies taking those concepts and applying them to esports. So before we jump into the content today, I want to take a moment to tell you about our Overwatch program. To date, the students of Esports Tower have been offered over $3 million in scholarships to play esports at the collegiate level. The thing colleges love about Esports Tower is that we don't just focus on your in-game talent. We help you become a well-rounded player both in-game and in life to give you the best possible chance for success in esports. Joining the program, you will receive weekly coaching sessions that include a VOD review and a scrim, as well as teaching and discussion through our Esports Tower approach. You also gain access to our exclusive collegiate network and have the opportunity to play in a bi-weekly tournament attended by collegiate scouts looking to find players from our program. Put all these things together, and the connections available to you at Esports Tower are simply unparalleled. Click on the link in the description below to start a 2-week free trial on me. To preface the topic for today's video, I believe every coach has their own style, and I could make this video an hour long telling you about a plethora of things to work on. Instead, I want to present to you just 3 simple things that you can focus on today to win more games. Those 3 things are communication, teamwork, and fight planning. As communication would clearly be considered essential in both teamwork and fight planning, let's start there. In this team-based first-person shooter called Overwatch, as with any first-person shooter, you have information that by definition is unique to your perspective and can help your teammates make better decisions. As with anything, there are pros and cons. However, I will argue that the pros of joining voice will always outweigh the cons. Before ever speaking at all, joining voice opens up the potential to see things that you can't usually see. One example of this could be with enemy flanks. If you're the character who's supposed to counter or protect the flank, it would be very helpful to know when that player is executing that rotation. Secondly, you gain insight into what your teammates might be thinking. Reinhardt may want to shadow this fight, but your Junkrat is planning to rip tire, and at the same time, your Mei is looking for an opportunity to wall off the enemy team. If you aren't all communicating, your Mei might just block that perfect shatter. The most likely scenario here, though, is that you all ult at the same time, which all but guarantees that you lose the following fight. Communicating with your teammates helps prevent over-ulting and helps you all operate on the same page. The flip side of communication is unfortunately all too real though. We've all been in matches where a teammate has such a horrible take that it's instantly tilting. We've been deceived over time into thinking that comms don't matter because no one listens and everyone just flames each other. I would also be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that the mountain of toxicity and rampant sexism still exists in voice channels. Add this all together and you end up with a perfect recipe for never joining voice channels and sincerely believing it's the best option. It's sadly no surprise, but the number one argument I hear for leaving voice chat is from women who don't join because men are toxic and insufferable. And it's really shameful, to be honest. It's really disheartening that people can still be so ignorant, foolish, and mean-spirited. And as men, I think it's really important to come together and call out other men when we see this happening. Toxic people are emboldened by their sense of anonymity and lack of real-world consequences for their actions. We as a community should be emboldened to call them out when we hear that blatant racism, sexism, and other forms of bigotry in order to help create and foster a more welcoming community for everyone. But one recommendation I have here is not to call people out in a way that's equally hurtful or toxic. Responding to bigotry in a hateful way only makes them feel like they're justified and all the more right in their twisted worldview. Let them know that their behavior is highly inappropriate and unacceptable, and then turn the focus back and begin to encourage your teammates instead. One of the more underutilized tools in-game is being able to mute a single player and move on. However, in my humble opinion, the best way to silence toxic fools is to simply prove them wrong. You, and not the general you as in everyone on the planet, but you who's watching this video right now can and should be the most confident person in team chat. If someone is being toxic, just mute the individual and proceed to keep talking and being the glue that keeps the rest of your team focused on the battle ahead. Next time you are confronted with an ignorant or foolish person, instead of letting their bad takes get to you, just take your confidence level up a notch. You don't need to be toxic or call people out for their bad in-game takes. You don't even need to start coaching people mid-match because we all know that that's never helped anybody. Obviously, you can't force a teammate to listen, but most of the team can and will. You'll be shocked by how often the team will follow your lead just because you make confident callouts and you stay consistent in making calls throughout the match. Now that we've established a baseline, that comms are important and that you should be joining voice and calling as much as you can, what are the most important things to be communicating? I would say you should focus on rotations, major cooldowns, and target focus, but you should also focus on listening. And this is also where we'll begin tying in teamwork to the equation. In Overwatch, the last thing you want to do on attack is approach a choke point and then just stand there behind a Rhine shield, taking all the damage just to rinse and repeat. You can't endlessly stand still waiting for something to happen. The team needs a direction and a plan. So take control and call where the team should go. And then even if a plan fails, you should be confident in your next call. Don't get discouraged just because you lose a fight. Communicate 1 or 2 reasons why you think you lost that fight, but not to blame or flame your teammates, but use it as a justification to either repeat that same rotation again or to try a new one. The next thing you should be calling is major cooldowns. Things like Rhine Shield, Orisa Fortify, Anna's Sleep or Nade, Tracer Recall, just to name a few. But why specifically abilities like these? These abilities are things that keep those heroes alive. If they no longer have that cooldown, then they're much easier to eliminate. When you make these callouts, it helps you and your team make clear target priorities, along with helping the team understand why they should focus that target instead of whoever they're currently looking at. Also, don't wait until you're about to lose a critical 1v1 to say that you need help. And I honestly still make this mistake all the time. But we should call our targets and rotations preemptively so our team knows how to come alongside and help us, and even more importantly, how to position themselves in a way that they can help us before we reach that critical moment. Bringing this topic full circle now, we've all heard people call these things, but one thing we fail to do a lot of times is listen. If you play on a scrim team, I challenge you to record your perspective during a scrim, but don't just watch the replay code. Record it in such a way to also capture the comms so that you can watch and listen back. Listen to when and how calls are made, and then look at whether or not you and your teammates react to it. Did you change your target when the call was made? Or did everyone keep doing their own thing? Did you follow the fight plan? Or did people ult when they shouldn't have? Listening is so important, but it can be a struggle for a lot of us. Make a point to work on improving this, and I promise you'll win more games. When taking a first fight engagement, you want to attack quickly after the enemy's first major cooldown has been used. As an example, if their Baptiste has used his immortality field early, as soon as it breaks, you need to use your speed amp to hard engage their core. Then, for each subsequent fight, as soon as the fight ends, you need to first focus on deciding which ults you want to use aggressively. Second, your team needs to rotate in positions that will allow you to get the most value from those ults. And finally, you need to ult track the enemy team in order to plan how to counter what they might try to do, or to analyze which abilities and ultimates you need to bait before executing your plan. By doing this, you decide what you want to inflict on the enemy team before choosing how to react to what they plan to do. This is how your team has the ability to set the tempo of the match. As an added bonus, doing this consistently helps prevent getting caught off guard, which in turn helps minimize how often everyone on the team ults at the same time. In conclusion, winning in Overwatch can ultimately be boiled down to which team works better together. This, again, is why some of the most mechanically gifted players to ever touch the game still can't always guarantee victory. This is a team-based objective game, so if you want to win, you have to make decisions based on what's best for the team as a whole, which sometimes means making the switch off your best hero to help the team work better as a unit. Fight plan to work with your team. Even a terrible plan that's objectively worse than meta, but precisely executed, can almost always beat a better strat that's poorly executed. Finally, always communicate. Be bold, be proud, be a leader, mute the fools, and have fun out there. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to check out Esports Tower in the description. Have a blessed one.